There's a specific type of silence that terrifies most men. Not the silence of being alone in a quiet room. That's easy enough to fill with music or podcasts or scrolling. I'm talking about the silence that happens when someone asks you a direct question about what you really want, and you realize you have no answer. The silence when you're alone with your thoughts, and there's nowhere to hide from what you've been avoiding. The silence when you stop performing, stop reacting, stop consuming, and you're forced to confront the fact that you don't actually know who you are beneath all the noise. Epictetus said that freedom is the only worthy goal in life. But he wasn't talking about political freedom or financial independence. He was talking about freedom from your own compulsive reactions, your desperate need for approval, your slavery to comfort and pleasure. Right now, you're not free. You think you're making choices, but you're just responding to conditioning. Your phone buzzes and you check it. You see an attractive woman and you need her validation. Someone disrespects you and you react with anger. You're not choosing these responses. They're automatic, which means you're not in control. Let me tell you what nobody else will. Your entire personality is probably a defense mechanism. The jokes you make, the confidence you project, the opinions you hold. Most of it is armor you've built to protect yourself from feeling vulnerable. Carl Jung spent his life studying this phenomenon. He understood that the persona, the mask you show the world, becomes so habitual that you forget you're wearing it. You've been playing a character for so long that you think the character is you. And the real tragedy? The character you're playing isn't even one you chose. It's one you think others will accept. Think about your last relationship. Be honest. Were you actually yourself, or were you performing the version of yourself you thought you wanted? Did you express what you genuinely felt, or did you calculate what would get the response you needed? Did you make decisions based on your authentic preferences, or did you constantly adjust your behavior based on her mood? Rollo Tomasi calls this the choreography of the blue pill, dancing through life trying to earn approval through performance. You've been taught that if you just say the right things, act the right way, demonstrate enough value, you'll earn love. You won't. You'll earn conditional acceptance at best, and the moment you stop performing, it disappears. Seneca wrote about how people spend their entire lives preparing to live. They'll start that business next year. They'll get in shape next month. They'll have that difficult conversation when the time is right. They're constantly waiting for permission from circumstances, from other people, from some future version of themselves. Meanwhile, days turn into years, and they wake up one morning realizing they spent decades waiting for a starting gun that was never going to sound. The perfect moment doesn't exist. The fear you feel today will be the same fear you feel tomorrow. The only difference is how much life you've wasted avoiding it. Modern psychology, particularly through Aaron Beck's work, has confirmed what the Stoics knew intuitively. Your suffering isn't caused by events. It's caused by your interpretation of events. You lose your job, and you could interpret it as a devastating failure or as liberation from something that wasn't serving you anyway. She rejects you, and you could see it as evidence you're unlovable or simply as incompatibility. The event itself is neutral. Your thoughts about it create your emotional experience. But here's what most people miss. You're not just thinking your thoughts. You're believing them without question, treating them as objective truth when they're just mental habits. Jack Donovan writes about how modern men have been domesticated, turned into productivity units that serve economic systems rather than living according to any ancestral masculine code. He's absolutely right. You've been trained to be useful, to be non-threatening, to be convenient. Your dangerous edges have been sanded down. Your aggressive instincts have been pathologized. Your desire for genuine challenge has been redirected into video games and fantasy sports. You've been given just enough comfort to stay compliant and just enough insecurity to keep consuming. This isn't accidental. Comfortable, distracted, emotionally dependent men are easier controlled than strong, clear-minded men who know what they stand for. Let's talk about what you're actually afraid of, not the surface fears. Rejection, failure, judgment. Those are just symptoms. The core fear, the one driving everything, is that if people saw who you really are beneath performance, they would find you inadequate. So you never stop performing. You never let anyone, including yourself, see what's underneath. You stay busy, stay distracted, stay performing. But here's the paradox. The performance is what's making you weak. Every moment spent maintaining a false image is energy you're not using to develop genuine strength. Every interaction based on impression management is practice in being inauthentic. You're getting very skilled at being someone you're not, which makes you increasingly incompetent at being who you are. Marcus Aurelius ruled the largest empire in the world, while reminding himself daily that his power, his wealth, his status meant nothing. He wrote that the universe doesn't care about you, that in 100 years nobody will remember your name, that everything you're worried about is insignificant in the scope of time. This wasn't nihilism, it was liberation. When you truly internalize that your reputation doesn't matter, that success and failure are temporary labels, that other people's opinions are just noise, you become free to act according to your own standards. The problem is you don't want this freedom because it comes with responsibility. It's easier to blame external circumstances than to admit you're choosing your limitations. Schopenhauer understood that desire is the root of suffering. You want something, you suffer until you get it. You get it, you suffer from fear of losing it or disappointment that it didn't satisfy you like you thought it would. Then you find a new desire and the cycle continues. Look at your life. How much of your mental energy is spent wanting things? Wanting her to text back, wanting the promotion, wanting more money, better looks, higher status. You're trapped on a treadmill of desire that never ends. The Stoics practiced distinguishing between what they needed and what they wanted, between necessary preferences and compulsive attachments. You probably can't tell the difference anymore. Machiavelli wrote that appearances matter more than reality in human affairs. People respond to what they perceive, not what's true. This is why you see incompetent people in positions of power. They're skilled at perception management. But here's what's important. Understanding this doesn't mean becoming fake. It means being strategic about how you present genuine value. The man who is actually strong, but appears weak, will be tested constantly. The man who is strong and presents that strength appropriately commands respect without needing to fight for it. You can't just be competent. You need to communicate competence. You can't just have standards. You need to demonstrate you have them through action. Right now, your life is probably defined by avoidance. You avoid difficult conversations. You avoid challenging yourself physically. You avoid solitude because you don't like what you find there. You avoid making clear decisions because then you might be wrong. You avoid commitment because then you might get hurt. You avoid conflict because you need everyone to like you. Every single thing you're avoiding is exactly where your growth is waiting. Epictetus taught that we should actively seek discomfort, deliberately practice difficulty, intentionally place ourselves in challenging situations, not because suffering is virtuous, but because. Here's what happens when you finally stop running. Everything you've been afraid of catches up with you at once. Every insecurity you've buried, every weakness you've hidden, every truth you've avoided, it all surfaces. And you know what? You survive it. That's the secret they don't tell you. The thing you're most terrified of facing is never as destructive as the energy you waste running from it. You think avoiding your problems is protecting you, but it's actually draining you. Every unresolved issue is a background program constantly consuming your mental resources. You wonder why you're tired all the time, why you can't focus, why you feel empty. It's because half your energy is dedicated to maintaining walls around things you won't look at. Most men live their entire lives never experiencing true stillness. They wake up to alarms, immediately check their phones, fill every moment with noise, and collapse into bed scrolling until they pass out. They've engineered their existence to prevent any possibility of genuine self-reflection. Why? Because in the stillness, you can't lie to yourself. In the silence, your real thoughts emerge. In the solitude, you have to face what you've been using other people to avoid feeling. This is why meditation terrifies people more than public speaking. Sitting alone with your thoughts, with nowhere to run, forces you to meet yourself. And for most men, that meeting reveals a stranger. The red pill community gets one thing absolutely right. You've been fed lies about how attraction works, how relationships function, how power dynamics operate. But here's where they stop short. Understanding the game doesn't free you from playing it. You can know every manipulation tactic, every psychological principle, every strategic framework, and still be completely enslaved to your need for validation. You've just become a more sophisticated slave. Real freedom isn't gaming the system better. It's not needing what the system offers. When you genuinely don't need her approval, don't need status markers to feel valuable, don't need constant wins to feel secure, that's when you actually have power. Let me ask you something that might hurt. Was the last time you did something genuinely difficult without telling anyone about it? Not posting about your workout, not sharing your progress, not seeking recognition, just doing hard things because you decided they needed to be done. If you can't remember, then you're not building character. You're building a highlight reel. Character is what you do when nobody's watching, when there's no reward, when it would be easy to quit, but you continue anyway. Every time you do something difficult purely for external validation, you're reinforcing your dependency. Every time you do something hard and keep it to yourself, you're building genuine strength. Your relationship with discomfort reveals everything about your actual level of development. Watch what happens when you're hungry and you can't eat immediately, when you're tired but have work to finish, when you're anxious and can't distract yourself, when you're angry and can't react. Do you fall apart? Do you need immediate relief? Do you reach for your phone, for food, for validation, for anything to make the discomfort stop? Or can you sit with it, observe it, let it pass through you without controlling you? The second you need comfort, you've given up your freedom. The moment you can't tolerate temporary discomfort, you become a slave to whatever provides relief. There's a specific type of man that modern society produces in massive quantities, the high-functioning mediocre. He has a decent job, a decent apartment, decent hobbies, decent relationships. Nothing's terrible, but nothing's exceptional. He's comfortable enough not to change, but unfulfilled enough to be vaguely miserable. He complains about a situation, but takes no real action to transform it. He dreams about what he could be, but never commits to the discomfort of becoming it. He's waiting for inspiration, for motivation, for the perfect opportunity, for someone to give him permission. He'll die waiting, having spent his entire life in the gap between who he was capable of becoming and who he actually became. The brutal truth about personal development is that information is worthless. You already know what you need to do. You know you should train consistently, eat properly, sleep adequately, build skills, take risks, have difficult conversations, set boundaries, pursue meaningful goals. You know all of this. Everyone knows all of this. The difference between a man who transforms and the man who stays stuck isn't knowledge. It's the willingness to endure the discomfort of implementation day after day after day when nobody's watching, when you're not seeing results, when it would be so much easier to quit. Discipline isn't a personality trait. It's a choice you make in each moment, and most men choose comfort. Here's why most self-improvement advice fails. It treats symptoms instead of addressing the core wound. You're anxious, so you learn breathing techniques. You're lonely, so you learn conversation skills. You're weak, so you lift weights. These things help, but they don't transform you if the underlying structure remains unchanged. That structure, your identity, your belief system, your unconscious patterns, was built during your first 2 decades of life, and it's running your entire existence. Until you're willing to examine and rebuild that foundation, you're just rearranging furniture on a sinking ship. The question isn't whether you're capable of change. Everyone is capable. The question is whether you're willing to pay the price. And the price isn't money or time, it's identity death. Becoming the man you need to be requires killing the man you currently are. That comfortable persona you built, those coping mechanisms that have protected you, those beliefs about yourself that feel like truth, they all have to die. This is why most men prefer slow deterioration over radical transformation. Deterioration is familiar. Transformation requires stepping into the unknown with no guarantee of what's on the other side. It requires faith in your capacity to handle whatever you find there. Stop waiting for someone to save you. Stop waiting for the perfect relationship to make you feel complete. Stop waiting for financial success to make you feel secure. Stop waiting for external circumstances to give you permission to be who you're capable of being. Nobody's coming. There's no rescue. There's no moment where everything clicks into place and life gets easy. There's only the decision to stop being a victim of your circumstances and start being the architect of your experience. And that decision is available to you right now, not someday. You want to know what separates men who actually transform from men who just consume content about transformation? Action bias. When they learn something, they immediately test it. When they identify a weakness, they address it that day. When they see an opportunity, they move before they're ready. They're not smarter or more talented. They're just allergic to passive consumption. They understand that every moment spent consuming content about change instead of implementing change is a moment wasted. Reading this means nothing. Nodding along means nothing. Understanding intellectually means nothing. Close this video and do one difficult thing today that you've been avoiding. That's the only metric that matters. The final realization that changes everything is this. Your life is happening right now, not when you lose the weight. Not when you get the girl, not when you make the money. Right now, in this exact moment, is your life. You're either living it according to your standards or you're not. You're either becoming who you respect or you're not. You're either taking action aligned with your values or you're not. There's no in-between. There's no waiting room where life pauses until you're ready. Every moment of hesitation is a moment of your one finite life spent on nothing. Stop preparing to live and start living. The discomfort you're avoiding will be there either way. The only question is whether you're going to face it and grow or run from it and shrink.